1970 was only 5 months old when the Progressive Conservatives held a leadership convention in St. John's. The result of that meeting in St. Mary's Hall started a chain reaction, and that led directly to the defeat of the Liberal government.
Total of 612 ballots cast. The results are John A. Carter, 41. Walter Carter, 50. Hubert Kitchen, 91. Frank Moore, 425.
For me, but most of all, most important, it's a very momentous occasion for this party. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first stage only electing a leader and starting to adopt our policy. The next stage is to win the next provincial election.
Well, in a way, he did win the next provincial election, but he did not win the government. In October 71, the PCs had 21 seats, the Liberals 20, and Tom Burgess of the New Labrador Party got 1. The Liberals managed to cling to power for 3 more months. Premier Smallwood stayed in office until January 1972, when he entered Government House to submit his resignation.
I am genuinely surprised over the fact that I feel no tinge of sadness or regret, and pleased and happy and relieved and relaxed to be out.
Frank Moores was sworn in as Premier with a cabinet of 13 members. 2 weeks later, after months of wheeling and dealing between parties, Hugh Shea and Tom Burgess finally settled down in the Liberal camp. Frank Moores was forced to call another provincial election, and in March 1972 finally got his clear majority, 33 seats to the Liberals' 9.
We have seen the first change of government since 22 and a half years since Confederation. And really, we've seen the first real change of government in something almost up to 40 years.
This decade may always be remembered for its political events. But the 70s were also a time of renewal in the arts. As new political performers took center stage, so did a new generation of entertainers.
Swing our head around and all together.
Burgess, how did the group start?
Oh, we started 2 years ago in Toronto. We used to be with another group called Sullivan's Gypsies, and Sullivan wanted to stay in Toronto, and we'd been traveling down to St. John's, Newfoundland, for about a year and a half, and we just got to like the place, and we wanted to go back to university. So we knew so many people down in St. John's, New Memorial University and that, so we decided to move to St. John's and form our own group, Ryan's Fancy, just to put ourselves through school and that.
Remember the winter of '75. I suppose there's a few of us still left alive. Oh, a tragedy struck that was hard to survive. Who remembers when all of the bars burned? Remember the Tudor, the first one to burn. The Circle, the Belmont may never return, and the Pick and the Dory, yes, they too are gone. The list is just too long to mention.
We had our share of sports champions, too. Remember how Jack McDuff won the Brier?
Particularly when he made shots like this one. That kind of marksmanship brought the fans to their feet, and a new Brier hero was in the making. And here in the final round against Joe Gorauka of Ontario, Doug Hudson, the Newfoundland second, wrapped it up with his final stone of the 12th end. That's it. Newfoundland wins. There's no playoff. The McDonald Brier is over. All in all, it was a briar to remember.
Especially if you're from Newfoundland.
A briar of firsts, the briar of 76.
Another winner was crowned in the 70s. CBC News put together a new supper hour show called Hear It Now. Almost immediately, it became Newfoundland and Labrador's newscast. And it's been that ever since.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now on this All Hallows Eve. Tonight on the show, over the weekend on Saturday, a pro-sealing meeting was held in Whiteway, Trinity Bay. Michael Harris was there and he talked with some of the participants. And also on the program, Mary McKim goes to a Halloween party in honor of the occasion. But first, news highlights. Here's Bob Cole.
Good evening. Fares on CN's Trans-Island buses increase by 15% tomorrow. The rate from St. John's to Port aux Basques will be $22.60 compared to $19.60 at present. And the Newfoundland Light and Power Company is looking for another rate increase. The company wants a 15% increase, saying it needs the extra revenue to offset a proposed increase by Newfoundland Hydro. The national news first.
The CBC News with George McLean. Good evening.
Industrial development in the 70s was plagued by problems. The most spectacular of those was the oil refinery at Come By Chance. After months of financial problems, the company was declared bankrupt. It was said to be the largest in Canadian financial history.
Well, as far as can be ascertained, the total indebtedness of provincial refining and Newfoundland refining approximates $600 million. $600 million.
And Frank Moore's is going to sink her. Down in the sea. Down in the sea, he's sinking Newfoundland. In a very short time from now. The last elections, they let everybody up. Big extension, the big chemical plant, everything, the big new hospitals. Come by chance, 2 years going to be a big town. 6 months after, everybody's out on the road looking for a job. What happened? Somebody got answers, but they're not having them out.
Just a few miles south in Placentia Bay, more problems. This is the plant that killed all the fish back in the 60s. Now, fluoride from the stack at the electric production company has killed nearly all the trees downwind from the plant. Then, CBC News discovered another dangerous pollutant. After months of investigating, Rick Seward exposed it in a show called Pandora's Box.
This is a machine used for measuring radiation. It's commonly known to us as a Geiger counter. We're going to test some of the rocks in the roadbed here near the plant. But first of all, we'll show you how this thing works. You'll notice that in this rock, which is naturally occurring in this area, the level is actually quite low. But as soon as we put the Geiger counter on these rocks, the white ones here in the roadbed, the needle is pinned. These rocks are clearly radioactive. And they come from that slag heap over there, a mountain of waste material from the furnaces in the plant. What are radioactive rocks doing in Long Harbor? And how do they get here?
After that show, the Canadian Public Health Association ordered that radioactive slag be removed from homes in the area. New radiation controls were also started in the plant. Another industry died in the 70s, and this one touched the souls of most Newfoundlanders. All they could do was stand by, helplessly, while a series of protesters, movie stars, and politicians went to the ice fields. They were trying to stop the annual slaughter of young seals.
Do you think that all this coming up here has no value to me?
That's the cheapest kind of political statement. You've already taken your stand.
Visibly shaken, the congressman moved on. Vicky Spears, a congressional aide, emotionally upset by the killing, stopped to chat with one sealer.
Are you a native here from Newfoundland?
Yep.
And how long have you been sealing?
Don't bother me, woman, I'm trying to work.
It doesn't appear to be a hunt at all because the seals are totally defenseless. They're very vulnerable. They're just laying there.
I think that the world opinion is going to come on so strong now, and that countries around the world are going to ban the importation of all these products and are going to come down diplomatically on the Canadian government for the way it is handling the seal slaughter, for the manner in which it's managing this situation, and the manner in which it is repressing people who are trying to bring it to the world's attention. I really think the seal hunt will be ended before next year even comes about.
Moore was right, because nothing the sealers could say or do was as powerful as pictures used by the protesters. Nothing. The early 70s were momentous years in the labor movement. Father Des McGraw organized the Northern Fishermen's Union. Then, with Richard Cashin, they set up the Newfoundland Fishermen, Food and Allied Workers Union. They went after all the fishermen and plant workers in the province. This did not seem to worry the president of the old Newfoundland Federation of Fishermen. With this statement, Pat Adel qualified for the how wrong can you be category.
But you don't think this would be in their better interests, do you?
No, I'm positive it wouldn't be in their better. I'm positive it would be completely and absolutely detrimental to the best interest of the fishermen. That's why I'm here today. That's why I'm fighting this battle down to the last straw, to try and preserve the Federation of Fishermen, because we have provided them with representation that Mr. Locking or Mr. Cashin or Father McGrath is incapable of doing because of their lack of knowledge of the industry as a whole.
The Newfoundland Constabulary had been negotiating a new contract for several months, trying to catch up with other police forces. Early in 1970, they formed an unofficial negotiating committee headed by Tom Praise and lawyer Bob Wells. No one actually expected the policemen to strike, but they fooled everybody. Over 100 policemen stayed home on the 10th and 11th of February. Then the non-commissioned officers supported the constables. At that, Chief Edgar Pittman gave in and offered his resignation. The police strike had virtually no effect on the public. Even criminals took the 2 days off. But that wasn't so with the CN Railway strike of 1973. It shut down the ferry service to the mainland for a week in August, and that made people angry. 1,600 tourists were stranded in Port aux Basques, another 400 in North Sydney. 35 tractor trailers, mostly full of food supplies, were stranded aboard the strike-bound ferries. That eventually caused shortages across the province.
They said Trans-Canada goes from Newfoundland to British Columbia. And how can they say that's the Trans-Canada if they won't let us across it? And you can't get home. It's pretty damn bad, I'm telling you.
No strike should interfere with any island in Canada, either PEI or Newfoundland. I think it ought to become part of the Trans-Canada and by no means should be cut off.
How much longer do you think you can hold out here?
Well, like I say, we're right down low now. We're going out right now to look for food for the animals and get substitutes for the real stuff.
Do you expect to come back to Newfoundland sometime?
Well, I'd like to. I'd like to come around under better circumstances.
It's been the first time I've been home in 13 years, and quite frankly, I won't be back here again, and you can do whatever you want with Newfoundland.
They did eventually get to leave Newfoundland a few days later. And if someone else in the early 70s had his way, thousands more would have joined them. Which brings us to the now famous J. Parker speech. It's doubtful that the Rotary Club has heard a more controversial speech since. Parker was president of the Board of Trade. He said 120,000 Newfoundlanders should be encouraged to leave because the economy could not support them.
It's our only chance for survival as a self-respecting province. It's our only chance to give every Newfoundlander a living wage and a decent living. We're always hearing it said, what a pity it is that 5,000 people have to leave Newfoundland every year. I wish it were 50,000 for 3 years, and not just any 50,000, not 50,000 men or 50,000 wage earners, but 10,000 families with their sons and daughters, parents and grandparents, the families that cannot get a decent living in Newfoundland. We've got to persuade these people to move for their own sakes. Right now, we're like a lifeboat that's built to hold 38 people. Instead of that, there's 50 people in this lifeboat, and they're sitting on the seats, and they're sitting on the gunnels, and they're clinging to the sides, and they're being dragged along in the water. Well, even at that, the boat would probably remain afloat so long as the seas are calm. But if the wind should blow and the sea come up, then the overloaded boat could be swamped with all on board.
Ladies and gentlemen, there were 619 ballots cast that time.
The 70s ended as they began. The province was up to its eyeballs in politics. In January 79, after 7 years as premier, Frank Moores announced his resignation. That plunged the province into a leadership campaign and 2 elections.
Our new leader is Brian Pickwick. Right
on the heels of the PC leadership came a 2-month federal campaign. Pierre Trudeau was trying for another mandate on May 22nd. But Joe Clark pulled out a PC minority government. And if Newfoundlanders thought they might get a rest from politics, they were disappointed. 3 days later, Brian Peckford turned on the political machinery again.
I desire a strong mandate because I believe that it will reinforce the confidence which I have always had in Mr. Clark.
On election day, the voters went along with Peckford. He and Joe Clark might make a profitable combination for Newfoundland. The Conservatives won 33 seats, the Liberals 19. But that was not the end of politics in the 70s. Before the year was finished, they struck oil on the Grand Banks. Joe Clark's minority government was defeated in Ottawa, and the stage was set for a mixture of oil and politics in the 80s.